Уважаемый господин президент,
Dear Mr. President, dear Mr. Vučić, Mr. Borisov,
уважаемые депутаты парламента Турецкой Республики,
MPs of Turkish Parliament, ladies and gentlemen,
все присутствующие на официальном
all who are present
церемонии
on the official ceremony of the inauguration of the new Turks Stream offshore gas pipeline, you are the witnesses of a very important event, not only for Russia, not only for Turkey, but also for the states of Southern Europe as well, for the whole European continent. Just now, our ministers have mentioned about that. Successful implementation of a large-scale joint project of the construction of Trans-Black Sea gas pipeline is an evidence that Russian-Turkish strategic partnership brings a very great results. And we can mention about the cooperation between two countries which develops in all the spheres. In spite of a very complicated situation, difficult situation in the international arena, we continue working, and I have to say that export of Russian gas to Turkey is being implemented, and everyone knows about that, for 30 years already. First by the Trans-Balkan gas pipeline, and then by the direct non-transit gas pipeline Blue Stream. Just last year, Turkish partners have received 24 billion cubic meters of gas. And now Russian gas goes to Turkey by the new route, by the Turkish Stream route, which is a very unique, unprecedented deep water offshore gas pipeline. We have two parallel lines of pipeline with a capacity of almost 16 billion cubic meters each. We have installed on more than 2 kilometers depth for more than 1,800 kilometers of pipes, which is a very difficult work, which is a very difficult and a very challenging high technology work, because gas pipeline goes not only on such a deep water, but also in a very foreign and strange environment. By the first line, gas goes from the fields of the Western Siberia directly to the partners. But the second line will go by transit through Turkey to Balkan countries, Serbia, Greece. And I would like to reiterate once again that supplies of Russian gas through the Turk Stream surely will be very important, not only for the economy of Turkey, but also for the whole Black Sea region, and will be very positively influencing development of many European countries, and will help to increase energy security of Europe as a whole. By implementation of Turk Stream, as I've said before, we have used the most advanced innovative technologies which provided maximum efficiency of gas transportation, and also guarantees ecologically clean technologies, and our builders have used most advanced equipment and techniques, and by that we can mention about the high speed, more than 6 kilometers per 24 hours of installation of pipes. And I would like to thank everyone who worked so hard on drafting, on projecting and constructing of this pipeline. I would like to mention about our engineers. I would like to mention about Gazprom employees and Portage of Turkey, and also all the organizations which worked together on the implementation of this gas pipeline. Dear colleagues, dear friends, your high professionalism, your hard work, your devotion has helped us to implement in time and very high quality, in a high quality manner, our gas pipeline. And I would like to thank President of Turkish Republic for the timely submission of all licenses, of all permits which are necessary for the construction of offshore gas pipeline, for the political will which has been shown by the leadership of Turkey, by the implementation of projects which are very important on a national scale level for the countries involved. I'm sure that in the future, Russia and Turkey will implement many joint projects like these in energy sphere, in many other spheres. All together, we can solve any most challenging, most ambitious work and tasks for the sake of our people, for the sake of our countries, for the sake of our partners. And I would like to say as a conclusion, I would like to say the following. We live in a very challenging, very difficult time. Unfortunately, in the region where we are now, we witness very serious tendencies of a worsening of the situation. Turkey and Russia, though, they show a completely different example of cooperation, of interaction for the sake of our people, for the sake of people of the whole Europe, of the whole world. I'm sure that we will be working like that in the future as well. Thank you so much.
Sayın Devlet Başkanı,
His Excellency, Head of State, my dear friend, Mr. Putin, the President of Serbia, His Excellency, Mr. Vučić, the Prime Minister of Bulgaria, Mr. Borisov, distinguished ministers, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to salute you all with my most heartfelt emotions, with love and respect. At the onset, I would like to welcome each and every one of our privileged guests honoring us in this opening ceremony this afternoon, primarily the head of state of the Russian Federation, Mr. Putin, and his delegation. It gives me great pleasure to be able to host you in the city of Istanbul on the occasion of such an opening ceremony that is very significant for not only our countries, but also for our region. And first, I also would like to take this opportunity to wish that the year 2020 will bring forward prosperity for our countries, for our people, and for the rest of the world, the first week of which had already been passed by. And I also would like to congratulate and wish you a Happy New Year, all of our friends and all of our guests. The Turks Stream is the latest beacon, it's the paragon of the close cooperation and solidarity between Turkey and Russia. And we are here celebrating the official inauguration of the Turks Stream natural gas pipeline. This is a historical project from the point of view of the energy structure in our region, our bilateral relations, and the joint endeavors we had invested in the realization of this project called Turks Stream, along with our Russian friends. Yesterday, again in Istanbul, we had organized a ceremony with my friend Putin as a result of the completion of the first section under the sea. And praise Allah, we are here to celebrate the completion of this project with the utmost success. Within the framework of this project, 31.5 billion cubic meters of natural gas will be transmitted to Turkey without any intermediaries in a direct fashion, so that 15 million households on an annual basis will be supplied. I hope and pray that Turks Stream project will yield the most auspicious results for our country and for all of our friends who will be benefiting from this pipeline. And I also would like to thank everyone involved in the realization of this project for their tremendous efforts and contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, Turkey ranks number 10th in terms of the largest energy market amongst the OECD countries. As of today, we are supplying natural gas to 81 provinces of the Republic of Turkey.
Nüfusumuzun
79% of our total population, i.e. 53 million citizens, are actively using natural gas.
bu sayı
And this number is increasing on a daily basis thanks to the infrastructure investments that we conduct.
ülkemizin önde gelen
And Russia ranks one of the foremost natural gas suppliers to the Turkish market. In the last 33 years, Russia has supplied almost 400 billion cubic meters of natural gas to Turkey. This landscape is the most important beacon of the cooperation between our two nations based on a win-win scenario dependent on our mutual interests. The cooperation in the field of energy managed to surmount all forms of challenges, just like other difficulties and hurdles in other aspects of life. As Turkey and Russia, this exemplary cooperation will erect on these strong projects in the future, as well as we will conduct even more tremendous projects down the line. We know that the European countries are showing a very close interest in the second phase of this project, where Russian gas will also be supplied through. As Turkey, thanks to the recent investments, we're not only enjoying a natural gas supply capacity adequate for our needs, but also for the entire region. And we have the infrastructure which will allow us to become a major trade and commerce hub. About a month ago, one of the most strategic lines of our cooperation, TANAP, was inaugurated officially along with my friend, my dear brother, the President of Azerbaijan, Aliyev. TANAP is usually labeled as the Silk Road of energy, through which 16 billion cubic meters of Azerbaijani natural gas will be offered to Turkish and European consumption. We hope and pray that in the future, the transmission capacity of TANAP will be increased up to 24 billion cubic meters, only to be followed with an increase reaching 31 billion cubic meters on an annual basis. New supply resources will have to be excavated, and the existing reserves will have to be developed further. In order for that to be possible, we are undertaking tremendous efforts in order to seek out and drill and unearth hydrocarbon resources on land and in the seas. We are also investing in the expansion of our production capabilities. We wish to see our country one of the hubs of global energy supply. We are not running after any tensions whatsoever in this region as the Republic of Turkey. The only aspect of our drilling activities for hydrocarbon in the Eastern Mediterranean basin is to protect the rights and the interests of Turkey, along with the Turkish Cypriots. As we have always been repeating this fact, no project that excludes Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean region will be successful from an economic, from a legal, or a diplomatic point of view. Turkey has the longest coastal line around the Mediterranean basin, and Turkey will always employ full right to have a say in the matters taking place around this region. And I also would like to take this opportunity to launch an appeal once again for cooperation with our neighbors in the region. Let's not convert the cradle of civilizations throughout the ages, i.e. the Mediterranean basin, into a land and into a water of tension. Instead, let's turn it into an area of cooperation and solidarity. We are ready to take all the necessary steps forward. We are ready to forge closer alliances and closer cooperation on the basis of mutual respect and righteousness and justice. TANAP and the Turks stream are both very concrete examples of our vision. And Putin is the gentleman that we owe the name of this project, Turks stream. What we expect from our interlocutors is not to turn down this launch of an appeal for closer cooperation voiced by Turkey. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Russian Federation and Turkey during the modern ages. However, our relations with Russia dates back to a very long time in history. Bayezid II, the then Ottoman ruler, sent a letter to Tsar Ivan III in the year 1492, which marks the initiation of the diplomatic relations between Turkey and Russia. That's why the relations between the two neighborly countries are so profound that they go back to 5 centuries. We are the deeply rooted countries and states of the Eurasian geography. And when they forge closer alliances, great results are to be garnered for this entire region and for our peoples. During our War of Independence, we have received tremendous support from our Russian friends, which we cannot afford to ever forget. During the sharpest periods of the Cold War, Russia and Turkey stood on the side of each other on the basis of friendship and neighborly relations. Even quite recently, we have never allowed our dissenting opinions to block our mutual interests. Thanks to the strong will of President Putin, we have garnered a tremendous momentum in our relations. In the 1980s, our trade volume used to navigate somewhere around $300 to $400 million, but right now we are talking about $100 billion as the prospective target. Especially in the last 3 years, our trade volume is on the rise regularly. We are breaking all known records in the field of tourism almost every year. The total value of the projects undertaken by the Turkish contractors in Russia exceeds $75 billion, and our mutual investments have exceeded $10 billion. And we have reached a certain level of maturity in the establishment of the nuclear power plant in Akkuyu. God willing, this project, which is very significant for both of our countries, will be completed in compliance with the calendar that we have previously set. The Turks Stream project that we're officially inaugurating today, it is bound to become one of the symbolic projects of our future ahead. When we mobilize the true potential that we possess, I think the entire region will extremely benefit from the value-added addition that will avail herself. Just like a Russian proverb states, quote, "If you want to embark on a journey, you need to have a smart friend to accompany you, and that will be half of your journey already completed." Then there's a similar Turkish proverb in the Turkish language. We are a nation that believes that your friend matters just as much as the journey itself. The Turkish-Russian friendship repeatedly underlined this fact, solidifying it and materializing it through joint ventures and projects. I hope and pray that in the future we will be very resolute in terms of sustaining the solidarity and cooperation between our nations in a very committed fashion as two neighborly countries. Ladies and gentlemen, as you have been closely monitoring, we have been going through some challenging times involving our region and the developments therein. The tensions that have been continuing between our allies, United States, and our neighbors, Iran, have finally reached an undesired level that we all wish not to see. As Turkey, we don't want to see the Gulf region turning into a stage for proxy wars taking place. We don't want to see Iraq, Syria, or Lebanon turning into a landscape of conflict and tensions, especially where the 30% of the energy trade is passing through. Especially our neighbor Iraq is on the brink of losing an already very feeble stability. And the safety and prosperity of the Iraqi Turkomans matter to us just as much as the prosperity of our Turkish citizens. With the Arabs, with the Kurds, with the Turkomans, with the Shiites, with the Sunnis, and the entire people of Iraq are our actual brothers and sisters. We have been on various occasions talking about our sensitivity as Turkey in every aspect possible. For the last 30 years, Iraq has been in the cusp of tensions and turmoil. And by protecting the territorial integrity of Iraq, we've spent tremendous efforts in order to help Iraq restore peace and prosperity. While fighting Daesh and PKK terrorism, we have supported Iraq in every fashion possible. And in order to stop sectarianism to take over this country, we have always been establishing close contacts with all of the elements of the Iraqi population. This is a very critical process where we can hear appeals of war, and we are using all sorts of diplomatic channels in order to de-escalate tensions. And within that framework, in the last week, we have been talking to many global leaders on the phone, and our foreign minister is also conducting a shuttle diplomacy between our interlocutors. We have the objective of de-escalating the tensions and in order to help prevail a certain common sense. Our region has been very wary of the tensions and the conflicts that have been waging for the last 2 decades. The proxy wars that have been continuing between different stakeholders led the price to be paid by the vulnerable and innocent brothers and sisters living in Iraq and Syria. The ancient cities of Islamic civilizations were completely destroyed. This is a landscape where brothers are turning on brothers, and the foreign powers benefited most out of these conflicts, unfortunately. And I think nobody can afford the luxury to pay further hefty prices in the face of such atrocities. Nobody has the right to exercise their own interests and rights by turning Iraq into a pit of fire and leading this entire region into a new nightmare of conflict. We are a country that can talk to all of the parties involved. That's why we are going to continue our shuttle diplomacy in a very committed fashion. We are going to mobilize all of our capabilities in order to stop from this region turning into an area of bloodshed, tears, and sweat. During this process, we will continue enjoying our close dialogue and exploratory talks with our distinguished friend, President, and the entire Russian Federation. With the contributions of our Russian friends, God willing, we will be able to surmount these challenges in a serene fashion. And before I conclude my remarks with these words, I hope and pray that the Turks Stream project will yield the most auspicious results for our countries and for our region. And I also would like to thank my dear friend, President Putin, who I deem to be the architect behind this project, and his entire delegation for being here this afternoon. Mr. Vučić, Mr. Borisov, I would like to also extend my gratitude to you for sharing our enthusiasm and excitement. I would like to salute each and every one of you with love and respect yet once again. May you remain in health.
You've been listening there to the Turkish president addressing people at the opening of the Turks Stream, the opening ceremony, and he's flanked there by the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, who he has just thanked as his dear friend, the architect behind this very important project, the Turks Stream, which will be delivering natural gas from Russia to Turkey and also to Europe. He also spoke, the president of Turkey, a lot about the geopolitical tensions in the region. Now let's cross to that Congress Center in Haliç here in Istanbul and speak to my colleague Alican Ayarlar, who has been following the ceremony all day. And we're looking at live pictures of the people attending the opening ceremony there. Alican.
Maria, that's right. It's been a busy day here at the Haliç Congress Center, where just moments ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan just wrapped up their remarks celebrating this this moment. I want to jump back into our conversation with Hamidi Arbas. Tom, it's interesting because right when we got cut off to actually go into the main conference center, we were talking about this different kind of relationship, and that was really highlighted in both presidents' speeches. Talk to us about what this strategic partnership, which President Putin also mentioned, and the different type of friendship or relationship that President Erdoğan touched upon.
As you said, we were just talking about how the interdependence, the economic interdependence of both countries and cooperation between the two leads to, frankly, peace around the Middle East. So President Erdoğan said that Turkey has been in great relations with Russia for over 500 years. I think he said 1492 was the first time there's been relations. And the Russian president reiterated that Turkey is able to focus on continued cooperation despite setbacks in the region. I think he was alluding to the Syrian conflict and other issues there. Both presidents are correct in saying that economically, the more interdependent two countries are, the easier it is for them to focus on cooperation politically. And that's what we're seeing here. That's the real benefit of this pipeline.
But this is actually quite interesting because it actually goes against logic. President Erdoğan said that, our strategic partner, the United States, and the relations between our neighbor, Iran, the tensions between those two countries has reached fever pitch. But we hope that the security of energy could bring peace. It does seem it can go against logic. Is that possible that the security of energy distribution bringing peace, especially in such a turbulent region as the Middle East is?
I think, first of all, President Erdoğan really has no choice, frankly, as far as lobbying for peace. And what you heard there is him trying to kind of make a connection, build a bridge between the United States and Iran, because of these recent events. Because Turkey is, the latest salvos from Iran into Iraq are 150 miles, less than 150 miles from the Turkish border. So Turkey is very much into northern Iraq. So Turkey is very much, it has no other choice but to try to encourage its neighbors and the United States to get along. Because if it doesn't, Turkey, not only does is it adversely affected economically because of all these, for example, the Syrian refugees in Syria, the economic uncertainty. What this will help to continue to do is decrease uncertainty in the region. That's the goal, and that's the benefit here.
And you can definitely be sure that these are some of the major issues, whether the situation in northwestern Syria with nearly 300,000 refugees pretty much pushed up against the Turkish border, the situation in Libya, and what's happened in the last week, whether it's the killing of Qasem Soleimani or the attacks that we just saw just 12 hours ago in northern Iraq. All right, let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
We're here for the opening of Turks Stream. How much of an energy hub is Turkey going to become with this? Because this is actually one of the points that not only Turks Stream is trying to make, but also Turkey's trying to make.
Right. So this is the third pipeline that's, after the one that President Erdoğan just talked about, TANAP, the one that goes through Azerbaijan, Georgia, and then Turkey, and then the Blue Stream. This is the first one that goes directly from Russia to Turkey. So that makes it unique. And Turkey has become an energy corridor because of these pipelines. This Turk Stream that we're here for the launch of was originally slated to go directly to bypass Turkey, and then the Ukraine, Russia
with the South Stream.
That's right. So with that, Turkey was going to be bypassed, and then because of the Ukraine, Russia, Crimea situation, the Europeans and the Russians kind of soured, their relationship soured, and then Turkey was brought in. So so as a result, now Turkey kind of has a monopoly on the pipelines going from east and west, between east and west. It's become an energy corridor, and it's going to be, and as I said before, not only is there a benefit for it through employment, through lowered costs for energy for Turkey, which is very important. It obviously imports almost all of its energy, but it will also help decrease uncertainty. If there is a conflict in Georgia, for example, in the future, TANAP might be disrupted, but this is not this is a direct line to Turkey.
Turkey is actually pursuing quite a proactive, or some would say an aggressive policy when it comes to energy expansion in the region. We've talked about Turks Stream and the other two projects, but there's also drilling in the Eastern Mediterranean. And also there's a quite important partnership between Turkey and Russia in terms of Turkey acquiring its first civilian nuclear power plant.
Right. Both of those are issues that President Erdogan touched on. I was surprised to hear him talk about energy independence and energy cooperation in the Eastern Mediterranean, and how he didn't want the Mediterranean to be a region of tension. These are all important points. As you said, Turkey is aggressive in that push, but I mean, it's an energy importer. If it wants economic sustainability in the future, it has no choice. The development of nuclear power for Turkey, the prices of energy in Turkey are several times higher than they are in other countries, not only all around the Middle East, but especially in Europe. The taxes associated with them, et cetera, are very high. So it needs to decrease energy prices. And that's the cheapest way to do that now, is the nuclear power plant.
So that would also probably help aid in Turkey sort of tackling its long-standing current account deficit.
Absolutely. Right,
okay.
right.
The two leaders, actually more so, President Erdogan talked about this $100 billion trade volume between the two sides.
Right.
We know that Russia sends over a lot of tourists. There's a strong military cooperation between the two countries, whether it's the acquiring of the S-400. Is the issue of energy going to really sort of push that towards it closer to that $100 billion mark?
Yeah, this is the easiest way to do it, frankly. I mean, similar targets were set by President Erdogan for trade with the United States and other countries. 100 billion is a very common number here that we're hearing, but it's the easiest to do with Russia, just because natural gas, I mean, we're talking about not a value-added product necessarily. The volume is very high, the numbers are very high. Nominally, it'll be very easy to achieve. So is it difficult to achieve? Not at all. Like I said, it's an immediate benefit because of the reduction of costs in those imports.
Okay, one final question to you. Obviously, Turkey and Russia are the biggest winners in this.
Right.
The biggest loser? I would say Ukraine.
Yes, I mean, that is a continued, not only Ukraine, but Europe as well. I mean, it's a loser in some sense. Obviously, this natural gas will end up in Europe. Some of it, as President Putin mentioned, half of it will end up in Turkey, as far as one of the pipelines comes directly to Turkey. And the other one will go through to Europe. I think Europe is trying to have its cake and eat it too here. It's saying, no, we don't want to do cooperation with Russia. They have to be punished because of Ukraine. But at the same time, they're saying, please give us your natural gas. So it's a little iffy there. I mean, they're being virtuous in some sense, but also, buying Russian natural gas. They have little choice, and so they're doing that as well.
All right, Taha, good talking to
Thank you.
And I hope we're going to talk to you throughout the day here.
Sure.
on the opening of this important milestone between the two countries. Maria, we're going to hand it over back to you. Presidents Erdogan and Putin have just finished up their speeches. I can't see what's going on the main Congress Center, but I would assume there would be some sort of ceremonial opening of the valve. It's just a ceremonial thing, because we know that gas has already been pouring in from the rich Russian gas fields from Anapa all the way 2,000 meters below the Black Sea into Kıyıköy, and then further on into not only Turkey, but also Bulgaria and Serbia. Maria, over back to you.
Alican, thank you. And thank you also to your guest, Taha Arvas. Now, let's get the view from Russia and speak to Julia Chapman, who's in Moscow for us. A very important milestone, this project, for both Russia and Turkey. Julia, how is it being seen from Russia, and why is it so important, this project, for Vladimir Putin? The Russian President Erdogan said that he was the architect and thanked him. Julia, we're going to actually listen to President Erdogan speaking right now.
Side, the valves will emerge, and then we will start turning them in order to feed natural gas into the lines. Are we ready? His Excellency, Mr. President.
And that was the Turkish president saying that the connection has been made now with, I believe, the Kıyıköy reception terminal there. And this is an important moment there between Russia and Turkey. The Russian president is attending this ceremony. He's been called the architect of the Turk Stream project by the Turkish president, and we are witnessing the establishing of the connection with the Ruskaya compressor station in Russia. And this, as a reminder, is an important milestone project, the Turk Stream project, which starts from Anapa in Russia. It crosses the Black Sea to the Turkish town of Kıyıköy, which is around 100 150 kilometers from Istanbul. It's been described as an important milestone between the two countries. And of course, this meeting, this opening ceremony comes at a time of heightened Middle East tensions, which is something that both leaders will be addressing on the sidelines of this opening ceremony. Now, let's get the view from Moscow. I was speaking to Julia Chapman earlier. Julia, the significance of the Turks Stream pipeline for Russia.
Well, Russia sees this as a very important moment because it is allowing Russia to diversify the methods through which it transports its abundant natural gas from Russia into Europe. Turkey is a very important client now for that natural gas, but of course other European countries are as well. And for many years, Russia has been seeking to find other routes for the gas to travel to parts of Europe. And this is going to be one of them. Of course, Russia and Ukraine have had a number of disputes over the years, not least after the annexation of Crimea. But even before that, there were disputes over energy transport to Europe. Ukraine had twice switched off Russian natural gas into Europe. And so that's something
Julia,
Russia is trying to avoid in the future.
We're going to have to interrupt you here. I apologize. We're going to listen in to the Turkish president speaking now.
To Russia underneath Kıyıköy and the Black Sea, God willing, we will have transmitted the natural gas. May it be auspicious and may it bring us all good luck. Yes, thank you very much. This marks the end of our program this afternoon. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go back to Julia. But you were watching there the opening of that symbolic valve by the Turkish and the Russian presidents for the Turks Stream natural gas pipeline taking place there at the Haliç Congress Center. Let's go back to Moscow now. And Julia.